So it dawned on me that I have a list of projects in my head that I've not written down anywhere, that I never told anybody about. I just know that I have a lot of projects. And the way my mind works is I have a big pool of projects, and when I get time, I go, let's do this project. And if I can plan them out in ahead of time, I'll sort them into my timeline so I can actually get them done in a relatively efficient manner. And a lot of times these projects are just me tinkering around because I need a chance to let my brain just go wee. ADD, you have to go project, 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 do a bunch of little things, and you finally end up doing something. And being in the shop allows me to do that. One of the big projects that I have in here is obviously the JCB. JCB was originally J.D. Pyers, who owned an asphalt company, who used to live on this property, worked out of this shop, and this is where he ran the business out of. I recently moved in and have been starting to get everything back up to speed. One thing I really need is this tractor back up and running. And at the moment, I'm not too sure what the problem is. I haven't dug into it too much. I have some hunches, but they'll come in a later video when I'm actually focused on getting it done. One of the things that I have been trying to find for this was the manual. This thing was bought new for J.D. Pyre and the asphalt company. And I've only ever been told that until recently when I was able to find the original purchase agreement in the house. Excuse me. There's a serial number down here that if you look it up on JCB's website, it doesn't show up anywhere. Like, I can't pull up any information on this tractor, which is really rather annoying. All I knew is that it was a JCB 1400B because there's the very faintest of a sticker on the back there. That's all I knew about the tractor. I knew its serial numbers, but I can't pull serial numbers up if they're not in a database. So now that we found the original purchase agreement, I know this is a 1987 JCB 1400B. It also came with a service manual and an operations manual. Let me tell you, those are key to get this thing up and running. Because I don't have the legacy information of J.D. Pyre to lean back on, because I unfortunately never knew him, I need to come up with all of this information again and be able to implement it and keep this tractor up to date. One of the things that have been bugging me is the number of grease zerks. I know there's a lot of pivot points on this tractor, and for those of you who don't know what a grease zerk is, a grease zerk is this little thing right here. They come in a couple of sizes, but for the most part, they're all about the same size. A grease zerk is designed to allow you to put grease into a pivot point. Typically, it's going to be steel on steel that you need to put grease into. And the whole point of that is because when you get down to the microscopic level, steel is actually really rugged. Now, what I mean by rugged is actually that the steel is on a microscopic layer, very rough. There's a lot of mountains and valleys, and if you don't have anything in between them, the two pieces of metal are going to rub on each other. And as they rub over time, they're going to wear each other down and wear away until they create their own amount of clearance that they feel comfortable. I don't want that because that means I get slop in the equipment, things shake around, I'm not as accurate where I want to put things. It's a no good deal. So the point of grease is to fill this gap right here and allow these two pieces to slide past each other with no problem. A good example of why grease is really important is I recently had to take the bucket off of this so I could get at the engine. In the process of taking those pins out, there was one pin that was right up against this frame here that had no thread so that I can put a puller on and pull the thing out, so I had to be able to push it out. That either meant lifting the bucket up and pushing the pin out. It was a no-go because that particular pin was part of what was holding the bucket up, and I had no way to support it when the bucket was up, so I was not going to be able to push it out with it being up. What I was able to do is I had a crowbar that I got in between here and the pin, and I mean there's maybe that much space. That's about 3-4 inches. There was hardly anything at all. I was able to get a crowbar in there and actually push the pin out from the inside, and the thing just slid right out. Like there was no resistance, there's no scoring on the pins. I mean, JD Pyre was a fiend about making sure everything was greased well, and I mean, everything was greased very, very well. So now I need to go through and find all of the grease zerks. And unfortunately, the manual says there are 70 of them. Yeah, 70 grease zerks on the original machine. That's not including all of the extras. That, I mean, there have been a few add-ons. All great add-ons for an asphalt company, but more things I need to know and remember, and I unfortunately don't have anybody to teach me, so, stick around and find out. All of the other projects that I have going on are like the workbench here. I've got some tools out that I've been using because they don't have a home yet. I need to find a home for all of my power tools. I need to find a home for everything on this bench, which is just a accumulation of stuff that I'm not really sure what I want to do with. I think a lot of it's actually going to go over on the other side, but I need to get that side cleaned up before I can even think about doing that. You can see the blue tape on my workbox. I want to change that out for permanent labels because that's just a much nicer look. On all of my cabinets here, I want to put labels on what's inside them so I don't have to keep them open like this to figure out what's in here. I can just keep everything closed and just have closed cabinets and know exactly what's in them. Some other projects that need to happen is that's a parts cleaner and it looks absolutely awful inside, so I'm gonna have to clean that up and get that out. I've got this sink here that I've got to clear out the stuff in here, give this another clean. If I'm feeling really spunky, I'm gonna try and put a Insto heater underneath so I can take the cold water tap here, plumb it into that, and then I can have hot and cold running water out of this, which would be excellent. But that's probably not gonna happen for quite some time. Over here in this corner, this is to the left side of the big garage door. I've got all of my welding stuff. Well, JD Pyre, now Kelly Pyre's stuff. Some of my stuff is going to get involved into this, and I'm just got to organize everything and actually make sure everything works, make sure everything's here. I know I need an oxygen tank for the oxygen acetylene. I'm going to have to go get that. I've got this beauty right here. I've got a lathe that is from my grandpa. He got it in his shop. He never ended up getting it running, so I brought it here. I'm going to get it running. I'm going to get all that stuff figured out. I got to get all of that off the shelf. And I got to take all the scrap out of the bottom of that and sort through it, because some of the scrap is really good to keep because you never know what you're going to need for another project. Some of it is just rusted garbage and I have no use for it. So that's all the major projects that I have going on in here. The other stuff that I've got going on is in the cold side of the shed. Call it the cold side because you can see there's no insulation on the walls. One of the projects is my truck. Right now I've got the dash taken apart because there was a couple of things I wanted to get fixed on it. And have you ever read the book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie? You give a mouse a cookie, then he needs a glass of milk. He needs a glass of milk, then he gets to go to the fridge. To get to the fridge, he needs a way to get up to the... Same kind of thing for me. How I got here was I originally needed to go get spark plugs for Brina's car, and I needed to get my medication. Simple enough. I asked Brina, hey, do you want to go get this? She said, sure. I said, do you want to take my truck? Because I kind of wanted to drive my truck. It had been sitting for a couple of days. I wanted to go drive it. She's like, yeah, can we take my car? I like your truck, but it's really hairy. I used to have my dog in here all the time, and I hadn't had a chance to vacuum it out. So I was like, yeah, sure. That makes sense. Let me go vacuum it out, and then we can go. So I'm vacuuming it out to get everything off the floor, clean it, and doing good. And before, I had a dash that had carpet on it. Now, if you don't know anything about a Dodge from this time period, this is an '01, those dashboards cracked a lot. So a lot of times you just put a cover on top of it, and unfortunately they were just cheap plastic with carpet on top of them, and screw it, send it. That's what was in this truck. When I was vacuuming, I decided I was going to go ahead and vacuum the carpet out, and I started to pull the carpet off of the dash. Come to find out, my carpet was just held on to a little cheap piece of plastic with some double-sided sticky tape. And well, that double-sided sticky tape started to fail. So I pulled that out, got all the sticky tape cleaned off it, and then I went to go reinstall it when it was done. When I went to do that, I realized there wasn't really any good mounting point up the top front here. But it looked like there should be perfectly good spots. So I found the right holes, I punched it all through, I went to mount it, and ripped right through the plastic. So I thought, no big deal, I'll be able to just figure out a new mounting system, it'll be fine, whatever. Maybe, hell, I'll just put some spray foam underneath it, make it nice and heavy, and let it sit there and say, forget about it. What I came to find out is that the original owner, who had the dash brake on him, actually left the broken bits on the end here and just glued the cheap piece of plastic to it. And well, that started to fail and there's no way to connect anything. So now I'm trying to pull that old bit off so I have somewhere to mount the new dashboard. In the process of doing that, I discovered that the under whatever dash, it's the dash that has all of the covers attached to it. It's still plastic, it's not the metal part of the dash. This part is all broken. It's got like all the HVAC system attached to it. It's where the radio would go. It's where you put your fascia on. All those plastic bits need to be attached somewhere, and they're attached to this dash. Well, you can see there's a break there. There's supposed to be something here. There's probably more breaks in here that I don't know about, just because it looks like shoddy workmanship, and I just don't like shoddy workmanship. So now I'm pulling that apart to actually get that out of the way so I can put the new stuff in. Give Sam a project. The other projects I've got going on in here are with this little shelving system. It may have been great for JD Pyre, but for me, it's not so great because I don't really like just having only 2x6 of clearance to put stuff on shelves with the divider every 2 feet. It just doesn't work for me. So I'm going to get some shelves in here so I can put stuff on it, and they're going to be about 3 feet deep so I can actually like really have some storage. But in order to do that, I'm going to block this wall, which means I want to take the insulation and cover this wall, which means then I want to put a backing on it, probably plywood, so that I can put the shelves up against the plywood and not have to worry about anything. Give Sam a project. Over here, I've still got the loft that I need to finish off. I need to get the plywood up on there, and Kelly Pyre, who is JD Pyre's son, is coming up soon, and he's bringing a set of forks for the Bobcat, which I've currently was able to get the bucket off. I've got it propped up on some wood right now so I can actuate these guys so they function good. These are the pins that actually lock everything into place. When I tried using them in the dead of winter, they were locked solid, nothing moved, and just looking at this machine, it looks like it's been neglected a little bit. And you can see it's been through some hard times. It's got some pretty big patchwork on this arm. It's not over on this arm, so I know it's patchwork. But from what it looks like, this thing has had a hard life. I need to get to it and do a full run through with it. It's overheating somewhere. I don't know anything about Bobcats. If somebody knows something and wants to help, I'd be all ears. But this is going to get worked on after the JCB gets worked on. Once I get the forks in for the Bobcat, I'm going to be able to get the out-of-season machines up onto the loft, and that will free up a lot of space around here. A lot of the stuff that needs to get up here is a jet ski. There's a trailer underneath that pile. There's this homemade spray unit that I'd like to get going that I wouldn't need during the winter time frame. I've got a nice little sled that I need to get up with the other snowmobile sleds. This pile of wood up here needs to come down, be sorted, and put somewhere. Might honestly, now I'm thinking about it, put it over with the loft, maybe drop the loft down by a foot and put everything in there, or I'll even go up into the rafters and put it all up there. I would like to insulate this whole area. That'd be fantastic, but I think that's a little bit too much for the funds that I have at the moment. Um, Dreaming big, if I could do that. I've also got a air compressor back here that I need to get wired up and plumbed. If I had all the money in the world, I would plumb in some lines so that I could have air running throughout the entire garage. You can see all the way back here that they're actually used to have the system installed, and this is where the original air compressor sat. And you think, oh, it's great, until you realize that that's PVC. Now, if you know anything about pressure and PVC, you know the two do not go together. And if you try to use PVC on your air compressor, you're just asking for a line to explode, and I don't want any shrapnel. And unfortunately, all of the lines that are run in the shop are done with PVC, so I can't use any of it. Kind of sucks. That's all the projects I've got right now. I'm realizing that's a lot of projects, and that's not even all of them. There's littler ones like fixing tires on the John Deere, getting chainsaws, a place to store, figuring out where all the paint's going to get stored. There's lots of little things that go along with these big projects, but having big projects is a way for me to keep my mind busy and doing something. I've noticed that if I sit on my phone and just scroll, my brain starts to feel like mush, and I really don't like that. So when I'm done with work, when I'm done with house stuff, I need something to go do with my time. So having all these projects is perfect for me. And if you're lucky, I'll remember to actually record things, and I'll show you what's going on as we go. So see you later.